have had recently in Portugal something that we think it's extraordinary from the point of view of the labor relations since the Troika bailout started in Portugal, so-called bailout. It's not a bailout, it's a kidnap, 3 years ago. This is the International Dock Workers Council has sent to the Portuguese government and to the Ministry of Economy a threat, a letter that says that the International Dock Workers Council and the dock workers around the world, around Europe, will not accept the cuts in salaries that the government wants to do in the ports in Portugal. This has, we believe, extraordinary impact, and it was very common if we look back to history in the 30s and other times, but now it looks very new, this kind of internationalism and this kind of very radical attitude, very radical industrial action. What is happening, in my opinion, is that the European Union has tried to cut the salaries and labor conditions in the last 30, 40 years, especially in the last 30 years, since the 80s. And what they have tried to do was to prepare laws to the entire Europe to reduce labor rights. What they have done with the dock workers was that in 2002 and 2006, the European Union has proposed a law that would allow precarization in the entire ports of Europe. There was a big reaction coordinated by the unions at the time with strikes. There were strikes all around Europe. There were strikes in Sweden, in Greece, in the Netherlands, in Belgium, in Southern Europe, in the other countries of Southern Europe. And there was finally a huge demonstration of 6,000 dock workers in 2006 in Strasbourg. There were clashes with the police, between the dock workers and the police. It was very, even with a reaction of the dock workers to the police violence at the time. So it was a quite violent process. And the European Union gave up of the law. What I believe they decided after that was that they were not enough strong to defeat the unions by attacking all the countries at the same time. So they are trying to do this piece by piece, country by country. So what they have done in Portugal was to try, they have done a law that allowed liberalization and precarization of the entire workforce in the Portuguese ports. And they, of course, just after this law, they have dismissed several dock workers, and they have proposed a cut in the salary, on the basic salary, from 1,700 euros, 1,700 euros to 500 euros. So what I think the companies of Europe, and the companies of Europe, they unite themselves not just in a political sense with their parties, but also in industrial groups in Brussels and in other countries. So there is a common discussion among the companies how to destroy labor conditions in Europe and how to cut the salaries. So what they have realized is that if they manage to put the Portuguese dock workers working for 500 euros a salary, this will destroy also the Spanish dock workers' labor conditions, because the port of Lisbon or the port of Sines is 600 kilometers from Madrid. That's why they have a plan to build a direct railway for commodities from Sines to Madrid. Is and the Valencia port, that now is the port that brings commodities from Valencia to Madrid, it's 400 kilometers. For example, if you cut the salaries in Sines or in Lisbon, we are 600 kilometers from Madrid. Valencia is 400 kilometers from Madrid. This means that the containers will come here, and sooner there will not be, for example, enough work to do in Valencia. So this will be a pressure over the Spanish workers, because they will be told, you have to accept the cuts in salaries because the Portuguese already done, and if you don't accept, we will not have a job for you. You will be unemployed. And the Spanish if the Spanish accept this, then this will happen to France. And this is a chain. When you destroy labor conditions in a country, you are virtually destroying the labor conditions in the entire Europe. And I believe as a social scientist that this is the strategy of European Union to fight against the unions and the labor rights, is that what they couldn't done by laws to the entire Europe, they are trying to do piece by piece. That's why the Troika strategy is it's not just a strategy of a capital fixed rent, like the so-called public debt, which is a way to transfer money from labor to capital and from southern countries to the central ones. But it's also a strategy, the way they transfer money from labor to capital is not just through the public debt, but it's also through a dramatic change in labor relations in all entire Europe. And I believe the dock workers can have here in Portugal and in Europe the same impact if they resist seriously to this, as the miners had in England, for example, in the 80s, or the air traffic controllers in United States in the 80s, or the petrol workers in Brazil. They can be a historical, this can be a historical moment for labor in Europe, either as a defeat, either as a victory. And if it is a victory, it's a victory to all workers in Europe, not just to the dock workers. Because what we see in Europe is that if you destroy a country, this works as a chain, but also we can see this among other sectors of the working class. If you destroy labor rights in one sector of the working class, then this is an example for the other sectors. For example, if you cut dramatically the salaries in the public servants in Portugal, then this will be an example to cut dramatically the salaries in the private sector. That's why I would like to recover here this beautiful sentence that is used by the dock workers, that is, we will never walk alone. It's a sentence that could be an example for the entire working class of Europe, and for a new Europe, a real Europe against this crisis of capitalism. And we should pick up this sentence, in my opinion, and say together with them, we will never walk alone, but also that we will not let you walk alone, dock workers.